Hey guys, it's Friday, January 20th. Best day of the week, obviously Friday. Got the whole weekend in front of you. And this is Newswave. So first things up today, we have to talk about this Switch UI tweet that came out where Nicholas, who is developing Binding of Isaac, wanted to kind of get the message out that 1001 Spikes is coming to the Switch. So what's he do? He takes a picture of his Switch with 1001 Spikes on there, where he's selecting on the menu, tweets it out, and I guess doesn't realize that he is also telling us what the Switch UI kind of looks like. So here's the picture from his tweet. You're going to see it now. It's actually showing off a Switch with a kind of a darker UI than we've seen. It has like a grayish black theme to it. I think it looks pretty cool like that, actually. It looks pretty good. And you can also see, of course, that Cave Story is on there, which Cave Story is popular to some people and everything, and it's a fun game. But so at this point, we know that it has 1001 Spikes, Binding of Isaac, and Cave Story. You'll also get a good look at this UI here. Now what's interesting is if you look at the top left, it looks like that's kind of like an avatar for your account. You'll also notice at the bottom, directly in the middle of there, you'll see it says Y for change user. So this tells us that you can probably sign into accounts and possibly change off if somebody else in the house wants to use the Switch. You can kind of change users and maybe have different games on the front, maybe different theme setting, maybe have, I don't know, folders in different places depending on how customizable the UI is. But it looks like a very clean user interface, and I like that. I don't want a very cluttered, hard to find UI. You know, you pick up a system and you just want to play a game. That's one of my gripes with the Xbox One's UI. I think it's a little too much going on, and that can kind of get in the way. I like the PS4's is very clean. I like how clean this one is as well. You can also see at the bottom you have what looks to be a Joy-Con button that probably helps you pair Joy-Cons. What appears to be a picture button, maybe that's for sharing. Like if you take screenshots, you can go back in there and maybe even edit them. The shop button, obviously, and then you also have what appears to be notifications or messages for, I assume, invites. A lot of people are also pointing out this is possibly the suspend menu, so when you hit like home button in the middle of a game, it'll go to this menu. That's due to the, if you look at the bottom right, it says close software. It also says that you're currently playing 1001 Spikes, so there's a good chance that this is not the main menu, but like the suspend menu that you would get normally. Either way, I like the look of the UI. I think it looks great, and I want to see what this Switch can do. I just want to get it in my hands. It's still too far away, I think, 6 weeks or so, but we're getting there. And after showcasing FIFA at the event, it looks like EA is saying that FIFA is the only game currently that they are developing for the Switch until they see exactly how this thing is going to perform on the open market with consumers. They also said that at this point they just want it to take off because obviously if the Switch sells well, builds an audience and a base for them to sell to with their games, you will see things like Madden come over, probably no problem, or FIFA, and they'll probably go from there. I don't know if they'll bring other things over like Battlefield. They might. But sports games are a no-brainer for them because they can just port Madden over. I'm sure they can port hockey over with NHL. And FIFA, of course, will be ported over as well. I mean, they kept FIFA going on the PS2 forever. So it's probably no problem for them. They just want to see the Switch do well so that they know they're not wasting man-hours on something that is kind of, you know, that could be the Wii U in their eyes. Because at this point, all they have to go on for Nintendo in their boardrooms is the Wii U. And I can't imagine selling that kind of install base to the big wigs and everything up above is not easy for them to do. The Switch just needs to get out of the gate and just start running with sales. I think that's why you see all these big first parties being announced now, just to get this going and get third parties on board. I know a lot of you guys don't really care about the EA games, but they are important. A lot of people do buy systems for things like Madden and FIFA and hockey. I see it all the time when I was working in stores all the time. People would come in, ask for Madden, ask for an Xbox or PS4, and then they would leave with it happy. That's just the way it is. So sports games are important, yes. We also found out what the first game is that's going to be taking advantage of the Switch's touchscreen, and that is Rayman Legends. Now, Rayman Legends, of course, took advantage of touchscreens with the Wii U, the Vita, and it plays pretty much the same across all systems, so it's obvious it's going to do the same thing on the Switch. It'll be 1080p, 60 frames, same as the 360, the PS3, the Wii U even, and it'll run fine there. It's nice to see that it's going to be using the touchscreen because I'm sure more companies will start to come out with games, indie games probably, to be honest, that do use that touch screen. I'll be curious if it works the same way in the dock or if they just disable it touchscreen completely, obviously, when it's in the dock and you don't use like an IR pointer or anything like that. But it's good to see that that's happening. No word yet for me when it's coming out, but it is touchscreen based. And Rayman Legends, another game for the Switch. If you're a fan of Shovel Knight like I am, I love that game. It's an awesome callback to retro times back in the 8 and 16-bit era. And we finally found out, this was posted over on PlayStation's blog, of when we can expect the new Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment is coming out in April. This is according to PlayStation blog, and no actual date, specifically which day in April, just that it's coming in April. That's great. It should make its way to the Switch, probably in parity, I assume, because they said they were talking about it being on the Switch as well as the other systems. Does not seem like the hardest game to port over. Obviously, there's not a ton going on with Shovel Knight in terms of graphics. It's more about the feel of the game, how awesome of a platformer it is, and just the overall nostalgia feel. I love it. And you know what? I'm trying to figure out what system I'll get it on. I'm inclined to get it on the computer, but the Switch seems like a good system to get it on just because of the handheld functionality where I can kind of hang out upstairs and play it, and I don't have to be tied to a computer monitor or a TV to do it. So I probably will end up getting on the Switch just because of that. Then we got our first look at Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 on the Switch. These were from screenshots, so you're going to see them here. The screenshots look good. Honestly, for all the talk of the Switch's games being underpowered and everything, these look fine. Like, they look very similar to the PS4 and the Xbox One screenshots. You can see there's still some aliasing around the edges that they need to take care of, if they are going to take care of them. That could also be from a resolution change during screenshots when they're taking them. But overall, it looks good. It's going to be the entire version that's on the PS4 and the Xbox One. It can be played in handheld mode. Now, I played Xenoverse 2. I like it. I have it on my computer. It's an awesome game. But if you played the first one, it's very much the same. There's extra stuff to it, obviously, but it plays very similarly. If you have not played Xenoverse 2, I recommend it. It's a fun game. It'll probably play fine on the Switch. It's using like cel-shaded graphics, which are not as bad to render, obviously, as the more realistic ones. So I would recommend it if you're a Dragon Ball fan. If you have not played Xenoverse 1, or even if you have, maybe you want it on the go with the Switch. It's an awesome game to get. I'm curious if it'll just be a $60 game straight up. Probably will be. And then, of course, we need to get into these online functions to see how that will work across the board. Online functions, though, with the Switch seems to be a whole other can of worms that we'll have to get into some other time. So that would take up a whole video on its own. And unsurprising to anyone, Breath of the Wild will be the last big Nintendo game for the Wii U. I don't think anyone was expecting anything else. Nintendo's full speed ahead on the Switch. Third parties weren't making games before for the Wii U. They're not going to make games now. And at this point, it's time for the Wii U probably be put to rest, and we move on to the Switch. Breath of the Wild is pretty much there because Nintendo promised it to everyone. They said, hey, it's definitely coming to the Wii U. We've been teasing you long enough. If you don't want to get a Switch, you can at least get the game and play it. But at this point, I think I'm ready to move on from the Wii U. I think everybody's ready to move on from the Wii U. It just was not working for Nintendo, and it's time for them to move on to the Switch and see what they can make happen there. And Pokemon Sun and Moon break another sales milestone. That game is just flying off shelves like crazy at this point. So according to Nintendo and NPD Research, which is like basically a site that analyzes data, sales, and everything, and come up with sales figures, Nintendo pretty much comes out and backs the claims. Pokemon Sun and Moon is the fastest game to sell 4 million units for Nintendo ever. I don't think this surprises anyone. Pokemon is a powerful franchise at this point, very strong franchise, pushes units out the door like crazy. They always release in pairs of 2, and then those 2 games get added together in the NPD figures usually because they are essentially the same game, obviously. But Sun and Moon came in at 2 and 3 in the NPD charts. If they were combined, they would have been 1. But NPD says that it is the fastest selling first-party Nintendo game to get to 4 million units. It actually ends up at 4.5 million units at the end of December, which means in 2 months, Pokemon Sun and Moon sold 4.5 million units, which is an absurd amount. I think this pretty much lends credence to the fact that if you release Pokemon Stars, if it is real on the Switch, the Pokemon franchise is so strong that it could push Switches out the door faster. If you have Pokemon Stars and then a Monster Hunter game directly on this system, all of a sudden, I think a lot of fans are going to flock to the system and grab it off store shelves just to play these games. Pokemon is strong enough to be a system seller. That is no surprise. I don't think anyone would argue that. Although, for some reason, somebody the other day in actual real life here, outside of the internet, seemed to argue with me that Pokemon is not a strong franchise. And then, of course, this news pops up on my phone, and I just kind of laughed to myself, oh, I guess it's not a strong franchise. It's powerful. It really is strong. It's definitely enough to move systems if they need it to. I think Pokemon Stars in the fall would be a massive hit for them. I mean, that holiday lineup would be massive if they can get Pokemon Stars out and then get Monster Hunter out sometime this year as well. I think Nintendo may have the best lineup for this year, certainly holiday season. So I don't know. We'll see going forward. Again, Pokemon Sun and Moon, fast to break 4 million units for Nintendo, first party. Very, very good for them. And they actually came out and said that the last quarter, 7.3 million for first party titles across the 3DS, which is a tremendous number, considering they also said that Mario Maker helped do that. And then Mario Kart, for some reason, just keeps selling on that system. I guess it's just Mario Kart. I mean, that's the same game that sold over 8 million units on the Wii U that has a 13 million install base, which is ridiculous as well. So those are some strong franchises from Nintendo. There's no doubt that they have probably the best-selling first-party content that I know of ever, really. So we'll see going forward with the Switch. They need that Pokemon Stars game, I think, to come out in the fall would be perfect. That's going to do it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Check me out over the weekend. We'll do some fun stuff, streaming other videos that aren't Newswave. We'll do something fun. I don't know. We'll figure something out. We'll talk about some different things. I really want to talk about this Nintendo online service that is being hinted at by them, which does not sound like a good idea, but we'll talk about that too. And I'll see you guys definitely Monday for Newswave. Check me out over the weekend. I'll see you guys next time.